Hello friends. So today we'll be discussing about the Spring MVC. As we know, this is a very important topic inside the Spring framework. But before discussing about Spring MVC architecture and Spring MVC applications, we should know the basic principle involved in Spring MVC, that is the MVC architecture. So let's have a brief overview of the MVC architecture. MVC architecture is based for developing any web application. Whenever a web application is being developed, what happens? A user hits a URL and the response goes to a servlet or a JSP, and a response is sent back to the user. But instead of using those servlet and JSP technologies, we use MVC architecture to develop the web applications. But what is the reason behind it? Because in servlet technology, what happened? The HTML code is written inside the Java code, and in JSP technology, the Java code is written inside the HTML code. What happens over here is that there's a dependency between the business logic and the presentation logic, because what the business logic will have is the Java code. You'll be writing your business logic over here. Now that business logic developer needs to have an understanding of the presentation part also, that is my HTML language, due to which there is a tight dependency between both of them, the business and the presentation logic. So to overcome this dependency, we go for MVC architectures. There are various MVC architectures available, like we have struts, we have Spring MVC architecture, we have GSF. We can use any. Later on we'll study why we are only using the Spring MVC architecture also. So now we got the point that why we are using MVC architecture, just to overcome the dependency between the business and the presentation logic. Here the presentation part which needs to be displayed to the user is written separately, and the business logic part is written as a separate module. So we are able to develop the loosely coupled web applications with the help of it. Now MVC, what does these three letters stands for? M stands for model. Now, what is the model? Model is the one which is our business logic. It gives us the data that needs to be presented to the user for the URL he or she hits. It's not that we are just writing the business logic inside it. It will be a single class. The class is written for the business logic, can further call the service methods which can interact with database and provide us the required data so that it could be displayed to the user. So this further calls the service classes which interact with database to get the data or call the appropriate web service. Next is V, which stands for view. This is my presentation logic. View is my presentation logic. So this is the presentation logic. Here the HTML response is being prepared with the help of data returned from the model, because model is just having the raw data, no formatting is done for it. So all the formatting of the data which is being returned by the model is done by view component of the MVC architecture. We'll be writing the view components using JSP, HTML, CSS. You can use any. You can use Jasper reports, Velocity framework. Different technologies can be used to write a view component. Now you must be wondering that we are having a business logic separate, which is my M, that is model, and the presentation logic separate, that is my view. Then what is the need of controller? Controller is very important component in MVC architecture, because controller is the one that handles or manages the entire flow of my web application. Whichever technology you are using to write your web application, you need to have a controller, because controller is the one that decides which view component needs to be displayed to the user and which model class we need to call for our data. So controller is very important. Later on we'll study, earlier in the JSP or the servlet technologies, or where the framework is being not used, there the controller is written by the user. But when we go for the frameworks like GSF, struts and Spring MVC, there we get a ready-made controller by these frameworks. This is what the advantage of framework is because it makes our human job easy and provide us the ready-made controller. So controller one is the one which take care of the data and the view needs to be displayed to the user. So this is what the MVC architecture is. So in the next tutorial we will be studying about the Spring MVC architecture. What is the difference between this MVC and what is the difference with basic